top right side, we have taken a look at the main base of the man that is representing the Platinum Heroes, Vamos for AqueroN.
And his opponent spawning down in the bottom left for Berserker Esports. It is the BattleB.
Some people have a different nickname for him. Do you know that, Seth?
I have heard. I have heard that. What is that nickname? What is that nickname?
I just don't know what the B stands for, man.
Yeah.
It's a mystery, and I've asked him, but he didn't want to tell me, and I was like, all right, then I'm going to give my own swing at it, but we're going to try to stick with BattleB for now. Obviously, for us, just a fun series between two exciting Terran players, and I especially think AqueroN is a very aggressive one, mostly against Protoss, but I think against Zerg, he likes to send it as well. In TVT, I think even if whether he likes it or not, he's going to be forced to sometimes take a chill pill, because this is just not the matchup where you can always end it immediately. There are cool, weird one-offs, right? The double factory or the double starport, two base push, but you can't really be overly aggressive in this matchup over and over again, or it just becomes way too easy for your opponents to get ready for that.
Yeah, and it's really interesting to see on a player's development path because, you know, whenever you're an up-and-coming player or when someone is kind of looking to see someone develop over time, usually building blocks of a player's fundamentals come in waves, right? Like, for example, Oliveira, back when he was known as Time, was extraordinarily good at two-base TVP pushes, like really strong, creating like these fortresses outside of the third base of the Protoss, and, you know, slowly added tools over and over. Something that we saw, for example, Clem having some issues with initially was kind of slowing it down in TVT, and eventually he was able to do so, and now he's become a very strong TVT player. AqueroN, I feel like, yeah, you said it best, he already started with that very aggressive style, and he does need to slow it down a little bit in this matchup, whereas BattleB, it feels like he's already started as a player whose natural skill set fits TVT so nicely.
Yeah, I love it. I can fully get behind everything you just said, and I think that's what gives BattleB a lot of confidence as well coming into this best of 3, but it's also scary, right? Because in the end of the day, the man still does not have that much experience, and the more that we hype him up, sometimes the worse that can get for a player, even though we all mean well, right? We just want fellow StarCraft 2 nerds to get excited over BattleB, but if we keep on talking about how good this kid can be and how well he's been doing in some of the other tournaments, and it creates this extra pressure on his own shoulders. It's like, guys, chill, I've never even made it into the playoffs, you know? Like, you can't just expect me to show up and start taking out a man like Showtime. And there's obviously no shame in the fact that that didn't happen, but he just got unlucky, and now he finds himself here 1 and 2. Honestly, not totally deserved, because a win over Gerald and then Zero and Showtime. I just think out of all the players in both groups combined, I really think that's the most brutal bracket, if we can call it a bracket, so far. And unfortunately, BattleB holds that title.
Yeah, it is a really tough one. There are, of course, some heavy hitters in Europe, and that is the one drawback of this Swiss format, with every match really mattering a lot, is sometimes, you know, you have a player really show up like Wayne, and, you know, he's able to make a really impressive showing happen, and it sometimes throws the groups out of whack. And, I mean, it's unfortunate, but somebody has to kind of pay the price for that. Now, okay, oh, look at this. BattleB just going to scoot right into the natural. Wants to get a full scout. I mean, it's a Hellion. It doesn't really cost you much. He sees the Cyclone, sees 3 Reapers, 2 Hellions, sees that there's no 4th gas, I guess. It's fine. It's enough information to let him know that this is pretty much standard.
Yeah, and that's obviously all that you want to confirm in this stage of the game. Now, scouting a 3rd CC, for a while we didn't think that would be a big deal, but then Gabe started surprising us with some of these 2-base all-ins, and if Gabe can defeat Maru with one of these special builds, then everybody else is going to take notes immediately. So it would obviously be nice for both parties here to confirm there is a 3rd CC. Now, I don't think that AqueroN is expecting BattleB to go for some sort of a 2-base push, but BattleB might be a tiny bit concerned that AqueroN is living up to his feisty name and goes for something like that, so I'm sure that he'd love to confirm that as quickly as possible, but we know that ain't happening. It's funny, by the way that you brought it up is basically because Wayne upset Showtime, he made life a whole lot harder for BattleB. that has kind of ruined the little bracket that a lot of people had in mind of players that they could potentially go up in, you know, whether they are 1-0 or 0-1 in this Swiss format. But yeah, everything kind of links to each other to some degree. Not everyone will play everyone like we did in the round robin. And a lot of fans just thought that we saw too many games that didn't truly matter. But in this format, you can see that even a Wayne defeating Showtime truly matters for a lot of other people. And in this case, BattleB got a bit unlucky there. We've got a Widow Mine. Widow Mine should get a little connection here. And it will settle for the Hellion. Did splash damage on the other Hellion as well. Nothing too impactful, but it's still a nice feeling.
Yeah, it's always nice to get those early pickoffs. You know, AqueroN is able to get the trade, kills the Widow Mine. Obviously, the best case scenario for that Widow Mine is it hits the Cyclone and kills that, but that's not really how these interactions usually work. Still, yeah, he'll take that. He spots the army. As it is, we haven't really talked too much about the game itself because not a whole lot has happened. Both players have kind of stayed on track with one another. The big difference is that BattleB's build was just a little bit more efficient. So he has a couple more SCVs, and that has allowed him to get slightly faster infrastructure, but the 1-1 timing, I mean, it slightly favors AqueroN, so honestly, this is mostly a wash, and it's going to come down to these mid-game battles for one of the players to try and find an advantage.
Yeah, and Altitude is such a brutal map that it is, obviously, if you make it to the other side of the map, it's going to take a little while. It is a large map, so if you are not ready to actually get the job done or you're not ready to deal with some sort of a counterattack of your opponent, it can really become one of these games where it's 8, 9, 10 minutes of macroing, and then it's all over immediately. This is going to be the first real attempt for either player to find some serious damage, as AqueroN has loaded up 2 medevacs full of Marines. He's showing the Reapers and the Cyclone in vision of the sensor tower, kind of like that. BattleB has the Ravens chilling in the corner of his main base, but 2 Ravens alone may not necessarily be enough, as BattleB does find the Reapers and the Cyclone will stim forward. And at this point he's probably wondering, where is the rest of the army? AqueroN is gonna show his tanks to, or I think he was hoping at least to show his tanks. He's like, hey man, it's here, nothing to worry about. But we know there is that double drop lurking in the shadows, waiting to strike the main base of BattleB.
And BattleB doesn't have any Vikings, but he does have those Ravens interestingly in position. If he's,
no,
he moves them out of the way. Could have actually stopped the drop. We do see both players getting supply blocked, but this is so bad for BattleB because there's 3 of his depots getting interrupted. Already 6 SCVs going down. This is huge damage for a rather small drop so far. Now, AqueroN could have gotten a slightly better concave there, but he will still move through. Gets a nice little engage. Now, we are going to see a very aggressive chase from BattleB, and he needs something like this, considering what he lost. Oh, it's going to be a close fight, but he will wipe out the army of his opponent. And you know what? That started off really bad for BattleB, but getting all the tanks of his opponent, that makes it a very decent overall setup, as long as he can clear out this drop without too much further damage.
Tank counts obviously are very problematic right now for AqueroN, who does manage to get a sensor tower there. I mean, the drop has been excellent, but he just got a bit too carried away with his main army. He wants to make life hard on BattleB, right? Where BattleB would not be sure how much do I have to send into the main base. At one point, BattleB just closed his eyes and said, I don't care about your drop in the main base. What I care about is that army, because I believe that my army here is bigger than your army. You split up a lot of Marines, as now AqueroN's going to pick up these units. He's going to try to drop them on top of all the tanks. Will this be the great equalizer? I want to say that I think he can get all of them. He will absolutely get all of them, and even save some of his own tanks. I mean, AqueroN lost 15 SCVs there, but I think that was a great cleanup.
Yeah, once again, coming back to that tank count, this is kind of reset the game in just about every metric, except AqueroN still has his 2 Ravens alive, and that can be a massive difference maker, especially when the tank counts are low and those interference matrices become worth so much more. You know, if there's 9 tanks on the field and you disable 2 of them, that's not a big deal. But if there's 4 tanks and you disable 2, that's huge. That is an absolutely massive opportunity you can create off the back of that.
Such a big little Marine scout there, by the way, for BattleB, as we took a look at the income tab, but one single Marine revealed all those medevacs full of units. So AqueroN was forced to unload everything, and now history is kind of repeating itself, where BattleB takes a look at his army, and he's like, think I like it. I believe I can take this fight. Medevacs have already used their boost. AqueroN, this can honestly get very dicey, as he does still have a couple of Marines at the bottom side. He could maybe send them towards that PF, but I don't think he's going to get a whole lot done there. I mean, with 160 supply against 157 supply, 11 minutes in, even the 2-2 upgrades are pretty much dead even. We were excited for it. We figured that these two would be pretty evenly matched, even though we were leaning towards BattleB. So far, I think it is looking to be very, very close between these two.
Yeah, these Ravens could be huge, though. They are going to try and get their interference matrix. He gets one off in a beautiful concave for AqueroN. He's going to wipe out these two tanks. There is a very small upgrade timing lead. The worst possible timing for BattleB to fight. It was about a 9-second window, and that's exactly when AqueroN just took a huge fight. Oh, that is the worst possible scenario for BattleB. He does still have this army on the right side, but at least one of these tanks... Oh! He hot pickups it. Very nicely done. Good save.
Yeah, sick pickup. I can't believe that wasn't even a window. That wasn't even a timing, but somehow it happened. These armies splitting with one another. AqueroN getting a good marine skirmish. I do think the Raven movement was maybe a tiny bit sloppy, right? Because out of the two Ravens, he only got a single matrix off, and in the end, both Ravens ended up dying. I feel like there was a bit more potential, right? Where if, okay, everything has been reset. Both of them lost a lot of tanks. Both of them lost a lot of SCVs. Then you should be able to get a little more value out of two Ravens with a lot of energy than a single interference matrix. But AqueroN is still going to be happy with all of it, because in the end he got that good fight he was looking for. His bases are safe, and we are honestly reaching the stage where we can talk about maxed out armies. Double sensor tower, maxed out TVT altitude. Could be a long one, Steadfast.
It certainly could, and we don't have the big double starport transition from either player, but BattleB adding the first Vikings of the game. We are going to see AqueroN making a very bold move forward here, just trying to secure this position and maybe hope his opponent walks into those tanks. Meanwhile, very small little drop on the other side of the map. Single medevac. Oh no, it's not being controlled at all. It just walks right into those Marines, but he will be able to distract a little bit and will get a couple of tank pickoffs on the other side of the map. I mean, honestly, if he just said, hey, look at this drop, and tries to distract, gets another tank in the medevac, that's actually really nice for BattleB. I wonder if sending an empty medevac might have been better just to distract overall, if that was the game plan.
Yeah, I think he ideally wanted to unload them obviously and get a couple of SCVs, but maybe was just surprised by the amount of units that AqueroN had idling at the third base. We do have those extra starports on the production tab, but we're not going to talk about that yet, because a big fight could very well take place here. BattleB is going to try to get in range of this PF. We'll at least get the sensor tower. A couple of tanks are in range. AqueroN sending these medevacs just through the dead center of the map. Will he unload or will he go for it? What are we doing, AqueroN? That's a whole lot of supply to have chilling in the center of the map. He is gonna go for it, man. All hell is about to break loose. His Steadfast with 2 or 3 potential fights.
That it is, and there is once again a 3-3 timing here for AqueroN. It's a slightly bigger one than the previous one. We are going to see this command center going down. The main army from BattleB hasn't been able to find any value during this. AqueroN feels like he just lost a little bit of supply, but he's got a huge amount of production that went up to 8 barracks during all this. So he's going to be able to produce en masse.
Uh-oh.
This drop on the left side.
It's caught. It's stuck. That's in the end 3 medevacs full of bios. Sure, AqueroN got the orbital, but that's still rather expensive in these units. It's going to take a little while to get those 3 medevacs out again, and obviously have 24 Marines to go with it. AqueroN is so aggressive, right? He's often the one with a smaller army, still posturing himself in a way where he's just got way more stuff, and that's just not the case at the moment. Like now he finds himself once more in this awkward spot where it's just going to get hard to get home, right? To get to safety. It kind of feels that this army is stuck, and if BattleB gets a great cleanup, and BattleB is going to go for it as all the Marines have gone to the right side, I mean, that is one way I think you can engage into 6 or 7 tanks. Sure, he lost a couple of Marines, but completely reset the tank count again. It feels that AqueroN is great with his Marines, but BattleB is slightly better in the tank fights, and eventually, I feel like that always favors the tank guy.
Yeah, it is a big map, so there's lots of opportunity for plays, and that's what AqueroN has been doing with these Marines and medevacs. Speaking of which, there is a ton of Marines here. Currently, it is 77 Marines to 35, and AqueroN with these 3-3 Marines on the other side of the map is going to try and make something happen. There are tanks sieging on up for BattleB. Are there enough, though? Only 2 here. Will still whittle this army down significantly. Is that enough for the reinforcements to deal with this? This is actually going to be really razor's edge, because if he can camp this production, it does become a problem. But regardless, BattleB is coming back home. But this has been so efficient, so effective from AqueroN.
AqueroN has been very yellow, and that's to me the reason why we love this Spanish Terran player, because he is able to turn water into wine sometimes. The man will just attack, and he loses a lot of key units. But with the Marines, he has definitely been able to make some great plays. His main army is still moving in the center of the map as well. We're going to take a look at the tank count. It is 10 against 9. So AqueroN has done a great job in rebuilding the tank count, as he does end up losing one of them there. But there are so many freaking Marines here for AqueroN. He's floating a little bit of money, but it doesn't really matter, as he does run into those 3 tanks on the right side, though. Those are some big old shots. AqueroN is gonna try to take care of it with just 8 Marines. What is happening? It's chaos as BattleB tries to unload his Marines on top of the tanks of AqueroN, but that didn't work because there were still plenty of Marines to gun down these medevacs. BattleB in some real trouble here in game 1.
Yeah, he certainly is. Not only is his economy way down, this position that AqueroN occupies is a brutally strong one. Now, I will say, AqueroN, I think it's a precarious position at the same time, so I do kind of like how he moves out of here. Not sure if I'm a biggest fan of leaving 2 tanks, but it's enough of a force that, like, kind of slows your opponent down and covers the rest of the army. And AqueroN is just so far ahead that as long as he doesn't get wiped out super inefficiently, this game should be his by all accounts.
Yep, it is always hard to end it though against in a TVT, especially when BattleB now obviously is aware of the fact, like, okay, this has not gone well. I am in trouble. If you are in trouble, you're not gonna move out. You're gonna siege up your tanks, and you're gonna hope that your opponent takes a poor engagement or 2. And this is where the sensor towers are important in giving you the heads up. BattleB is already moving his army over in the right position. AqueroN takes a look, and he's like, can I do this? I want to say the answer is no. For a split second there, it looked like he wants to. He moves a couple of units out. Getting the sensor tower is obviously nice, but now Liberator is going to siege up as well. I do not think you can stim forward into those lips. Good job here by BattleB stabilizing, right? When you're down 40, 50 supply, it is really not easy to move your army around properly.
No, it's super difficult to do so. And the fact, any minute that he stays alive in this game and gives himself an opportunity is a good minute for BattleB. Now, this is really funny because they both have now gone Liberators, and they both just said, no, we don't need air superiority. We don't need Vikings. They have this weird gentleman's agreement where there isn't going to be an air war. They're just going for the Liberators straight up, which is very funny as a concept.
Yeah, and may have something to do with the fact that this is such a large, wide open map, right? Where they just feel like, okay, maybe mobility is slightly more important than all the tanks and all the Vikings. Well, I'm sure that if we were playing this game on Babylon or Neo Humanity, we definitely see more Vikings on either side. BattleB did make a couple of Vikings earlier, but they just got picked up. There was a big fight happening on the left side. I'd love to take a little look at that, as all of the tanks and Marines of AqueroN are getting in range of that planetary fortress. BattleB sieges up a tank on the high ground, but it's not in range of the tanks of AqueroN. So AqueroN will get another base and will still make it harder and harder for BattleB to max out. But the army supply of BattleB actually looks quite nice.
It is quite nice right now. However, he is getting slowly bled out. We are going to see Marines trying to drop on the Liberators of AqueroN, but they're not going to be able to get much more. Well, he gets one of them, which I'm surprised about, but it's not going to be enough here. AqueroN had just been battering BattleB since that triple drop, and he was able to close this game out.
It started off with a triple drop, and that one got him in a good spot, but he did lose all these tanks on the right side, right? And it was still kind of even. Then he took a good fight in the center of the map. But I think the real game changer were the 5 medevacs, full of Marines that he just once more sent through the dead center. We're not dropping into the main. We're not going to drop into the back of the natural. No, we're flying through the center of the map and unloading like 30 Marines with Steam and Combat Shield. BattleB had a couple of Marines, he had a couple of Vikings, and he had 2 tanks, but only 1 tank was sieged up. And AqueroN just got a tremendous amount of damage done. And it was not easy to close it out afterwards, but in the end, well done. Turns out that the Marine is better than the tank, Steadfast.
I mean, that's the beauty of TVT at this current stage, and that's why so many people enjoy Marine tanks so much, is it's not just about one unit better than the other. It's about, you know, how you utilize them. And we really saw that AqueroN was able to pull his opponent apart. Now, altitude is a map that there's so much area to cover. And while it's you know, harder to attack, it's also easier to slip attacks past your opponent. And that's kind of what we saw there. Those medevacs, yeah, they just kind of ran roughshod. And very well done by AqueroN. BattleB I think he's gonna have a bit of an easier time on Ancient Cistern, keeping track of more of the attack paths, because you can't really do some of the moves that BattleB did on altitude on Ancient Cistern. If you try, you might get bopped on the nose.
Yeah, it's going to be a stressful TVT, I think, for both players. AqueroN is requesting one more second, guys, so we're not doing TalkCraft here just because we want to talk. But I get it. I'm sure that he's feeling nervous. I think this was a very scary best of 3 for him. 1-2, tournament live on the line for everyone that just joined us. 3 wins and you advance into the playoffs. 3 losses and you're eliminated from the tournament in this new format. And both of these guys holding a 1-win, 2-loss record in best of 3s. So AqueroN knows that obviously this is a do or die series. Taking that 1-0 lead, and that must have been like a pretty crazy game where at first you're like, yay, and then you're nay, and then you're yay, and then you're nay. It's like, it kind of went a little bit back and forth, but it's especially the 5 medevacs followed by units. I do think, though, if there is one map where you can get away with that playstyle where you clearly believe more in the guy with the gun than you believe in slowing the game down with tanks and Vikings and Liberators, it has to be Altitude. This map, Ancient Cistern, as you said, it's also pretty large. It is somewhat wide open, but I still believe that like Viking tank should normally reign supreme over YOLO Marine drops on this map.
Yeah, I definitely think so. Now, that's not to say that there's not opportunities for AqueroN to open things up, but we're going to have to see. And I, for one, am actually now really excited for this series after that game number 1.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be super interesting to see. Let's get into it.
Big moment for these 2 European Terrans. The tournament live is on the line once more. In the bottom left side, we're looking at main base of a Spanish Terran, taking a somewhat surprising but well-deserved 1-0 lead. Representing the Platinum Heroes, it's AqueroN.
And his opponent, spawning up at the top right for Berserker Esports, looking to turn it around. It is BattleB.
AqueroN definitely had... sorry, go ahead, Stefan.
No, go ahead.
I wanted to say that AqueroN definitely, I think, had a slightly more doable bracket so far, if we can call it a bracket, with a loss against Shutdown, a win against DNS, that's obviously impressive, and then a loss against Spirit. 3 good players, but once more, can't quite compare it to Gerald, Serral, and Showtime, because that's just the more difficult route to where we got so far. But now you go ahead, mate.
No, I was just going to say it's going to be really interesting to see if either of these players comes out with anything a little bit spicy in this series. If this was a Korean Terran, we'd almost certainly be on our 3rd proxy 2 racks of the series by now. Like, one of them does it in game 1, and then they both do it in game 2. But the European mantra is a lot more, I guess, conservative in terms of play styles and build order choices. And especially in a match like this, that is so highly impactful, you don't want to throw away even the tiniest advantage in a map where, maybe you only have 7-8 maps that are really highly impactful. You don't want to do anything to jeopardize your opportunity in the group. So makes sense that they both open up double gas.
Yeah, I think unless you're a true believer in your weird proxy marauder, or you truly think that your Reaper Micro is second to beyond, and you can make the difference, it makes sense to just go with a rather standard opening. But it doesn't necessarily mean that we're going to have the same game. Where last game, for the first 7 minutes, we truly had very little happening. We can't forget about that initial double drop, where I do think BattleB got maybe a tiny bit unlucky, because he legitimately had those Ravens sitting there for over 90 seconds, maybe even 2 minutes, right? Where he's like, could be a drop, and the moment he pulled it away, and it's not like AqueroN knew it, AqueroN did not have vision of that. That's just that little bit of luck that you still need in high-level StarCraft. The moment BattleB pulls those Ravens away, that's when the double drop shows up in his main base, and just kind of, I think, from that point on, already became uncomfortable for BattleB. Definitely didn't always look bad, but it just feels bad. There is nothing worse than being ready for a drop for 2 minutes straight, and then the first moment you don't want it to show up, it shows up at that very specific moment. Like, that just makes you pull your hairs out.
Yeah, and there's a big psychological effect to it of like, how did he know? How did he know? Like, what? And obviously it was like you said, luck. But when you're in the heat of the moment and you're in these high pressure situations that maybe you're not as used to, because even if you play, you know, the weekly cups, it's not the same as a very important do or die single match, single best of 3 where, you know, you win, you stay alive, you lose, you're out. That's when you start wondering, you're like, oh my God, does my opponent have like, do they have a read on me? Have they done more research than like is humanly possible? You start wondering that, even though it's a ridiculous concept, it can kind of burrow its way into your brain, and it's important to kind of stay calm during those moments.
Yep, well, apparently AqueroN is going to go a little bit more feisty here in Game 2. We've got double Reaper Hellion, and there is a medevac with 4 Marines and a tank making its way to the other side of the map. For BattleB, it's very important to, as quickly as possible, react to this, right? Like, if you can get a lock-on either the medevac or the tank with your Cyclone, you'll be loving life. Or you can maybe drop an Interference Matrix, but he doesn't quite have energy for that. He doesn't see it, right? BattleB does not see this yet. Now the tank is already sieged up, and the first tank shot is good. The second one is good as well. I think this is going to be rather difficult for BattleB to deal with, Steadfast.
Yeah, this is already looking very uncomfortable right here. BattleB losing, I mean, it's even in units lost pretty much, but the tank position is very annoying. Nice job from BattleB. He sneaks up on this tank. Oh, I cannot believe that third tank shot didn't go through, and AqueroN actually got away with that. Oh man, speaking of frustrations, that's got to feel so frustrating. When that tank gets away by like, that had to have been 0.1 of a second.
Excellent reaction there though by BattleB, because it's very easy to get frustrated, right, and be like, oh man, I didn't see this, and then you take an awkward engagement, and then you're forced to either use another ability of your Raven, or you might even end up losing a tank, and that would obviously be a straight up nightmare. Well done. He saw it late, and he still kind of dealt with it perfectly, despite the fact that the first tank shots maybe splashed a little too much over his bio. What do you make of this super early reactor on the starport? And like, AqueroN is still just going to build his reactor. BattleB already has his reactor up and running, and he already has his first Vikings out.
Actually really like this from BattleB because, you know, part of the trade-off of going for this early medevac is it's the starport time. I mean, that's the biggest trade-off, really. So you don't get to build a Raven as early, and if you want to go for Ravens behind it, your Vikings are going to be delayed. So I really like that BattleB is now prioritizing air superiority, and he scans and sees that the reactor was still in production on the starport, so he knows he's going to have air superiority. Now, this is a little bit funky. This is a very aggressive little move out from AqueroN. They kind of stumble into each other, and honestly, I think that's way better for BattleB, that he walks in, sees it, and doesn't lose everything.
Yeah, I mean, it's super weird. It's actually super weird. They're just kind of avoiding each other. AqueroN is going to try to make his way into the natural of BattleB, as BattleB is now in the center of the map. I feel BattleB's army is really not that great to base trade with, though. There really isn't all that much firepower in it. I'm ultra confused that BattleB felt that he had to make this move. He had to send it all to the other side of the map. This is just not quite working out for him, as an interference matrix is going to land on that tank. AqueroN, as decisive as we know him, just makes his way into the main base. BattleB now finally makes it into the natural of AqueroN, but it's okay. He is going to get a lot of SCVs. That's obviously a great fight against the SCVs, but I still think I like it more for AqueroN, even though this might not would have been my SCV fight of the century. But obviously AqueroN still has a lot of units on the other side of the map. That was a quick way though to dispose of 35 SCVs. They died really fast. The problem is now the army supply is massively in favor of AqueroN. Both players do still have the Ravens, and most importantly for BattleB, the biggest advantage he has is that Stim is done. But it is important to note that, I mean, 1-1 actually is going to finish up for AqueroN, and he is just so far ahead in army supply. I really don't know how BattleB can handle this. Steadfast, you know what it is? Like, 5 Stim is great, right? But then if you look at the army, and it's like the army is 5 Marines, then Stim is not great. And BattleB will actually tap out while being up in supply and having a 33 worker advantage.